Welcome to the Ideal Investor Show. Join us on the journey to financial success. Let's go. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Investor Show. And today I hope you're all doing well and you are ready to get into the end of the year, the last quarter. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a perspective because I recently had a little chat exchange with somebody who had been reading several of our articles and posts and newsletters and stuff like that. And then he wrote to me and he said, I wish I would have had this information earlier or when I was younger. I think it is too late for me now. And so I responded and said, okay, well, with all due respect, can you tell me how old you are? Because the picture in his profile didn't really give him much of an information to give an educated guess. And so he came back and he said, yeah, I'm 50 and I wish I would have known this when I was 30 or 35. And that brings up the question for what we are doing with our residential real estate investing, for developing a passive income portfolio, for all these things that we are focusing on. Is it too late to actually get started when you're 50, especially as you know, the subtitle for our show is The Path to Early Retirement. So is there still a path to early retirement when you're 50, when you start? Now, for anybody who doesn't want to necessarily listen to the whole show, I would say the short answer is absolutely yes. It starts out with the question is, what would be early retirement? And if you look at the rules right now in the United States and you go for eligibility in Social Security and so forth, it's all set up in accordance to your birth date, birth year. Right. So if you're older, then you have an opportunity to retire sooner, like at 63, 64, 65. But the younger you are, the more likely your estimated retirement age is something like 67, 68, 69. So if you want to just be cheeky and say, okay, anything before, let's say 67 could be considered early. Most people, if you ask them what is the traditional retirement age, they would probably say 65. So to this person that contacted me and said, I think it's too late for me and he is 50, is it possible to basically get to a passive income portfolio that doesn't require you to work anymore before you're 65 when you start at 50? And the answer again is absolutely yes, because if you go back to most of my writings, most of our episodes here at the Ideal Investor Show, you will find that I've always said, depending on what exactly the amount of money of passive income you think you need is going to be. But for most people, if you are consistently invest, and consistently means at least something like every 15 months get a property, and then more and more as you go along because you make more and more positive cash flow, then you should be able to do it anywhere between 9 to 12 years. So that would mean somebody who is 50 now would be done somewhere between 59 and 61, 62 maybe, right? So that would still be considered early retirement. Now, here is one other thing to consider. When we compare somebody who is today 50 versus somebody who is today 30 or 35, those additional years that have gone by, even if you made a few mistakes and had some bad luck and so forth, it is still very likely that you have more assets available that you can start using for investing than somebody in their early 30s or mid 30s. So that means if you really wanted to build a residential real estate portfolio for passive income generation, and you're willing to use what you have accumulated already, then comparing somebody between 30 and 35 and somebody who is 50 should allow you to immediately start with more than one or two properties. And as you can imagine, if you can start, let's say, with buying 2 properties and then one new one every year, and you're really, really motivated to make it happen, then you can probably be done like in 8 or 9 years, and that would mean you could go into your early retirement before you're 60. And I think everybody would agree that that is and would be considered early retirement. So if you're 50, it's not too late. Now, some people might have a situation if you're 50 and you really have made a lot of mistakes and have barely anything to invest, then it will be very tricky. I don't want to kind of give the wrong impression. But if you more than along the lines of what most 50-year-olds have, and what I'm finding is a lot of them have a lot of money sitting in their 401k plans because they've been employed almost all their life and they have been putting or forced to put money into these plans. It's just not very efficiently working for them, right? So that's one of the big differences. The more years you have put money into 401k or IRA or any of those kind of plans, the more likely it is that you have a little bit of a head start versus somebody who is 30. But the big underlying answer to the question, is it too late, is no, it's not too late, because you have still easily enough time to get this passive income portfolio. And the only difference is that normally if somebody gets their portfolio started at 35, then by the time they hit 50 or 55 or 60, they start having the first properties that are paid off. Whereas somebody who starts at 50 will either have to accelerate the payoff or start off right away with shorter mortgages and less leverage, but you will not be having several properties paid off by the time that you get to the traditional retirement age. And that's okay, right? We are calculating our numbers not on the paid off mortgage, but on the positive cash flow that your properties are generating. So that's it for today. Be well and stay safe, and I talk to you tomorrow.